The grand hall of the Galactic Council echoed with laughter. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the known universe clutched their various anatomical features as they roared, chuckled, and wheezed at the latest human transmission. On the massive holographic display, Earth's announcement about their breakthrough in dimensional travel played on repeat. "These humans," bellowed Council leader Marcus Gray, his crystalline form shimmering with amusement, "they think they can achieve seventh-dimensional travel when they barely understand the fourth dimension." Another wave of laughter swept through the chamber. Down on Earth, in a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. James Miller watched the broadcast of the Council's reaction with a tight-lipped smile. His weathered face showed no sign of the anger his colleagues displayed around him. Instead, his blue eyes twinkled with secret knowledge. "Let them laugh," he said softly, turning to face the massive structure behind him. Through the reinforced glass window of the observation deck, the Hyperion waited, humanity's greatest achievement, hidden from the prying eyes of the galaxy. The vessel didn't look impressive at first glance. It appeared as a simple silver sphere, roughly the size of a small house. No visible engines, no weapons, no external features at all. But its smooth surface rippled occasionally, like water disturbed by an unseen force. "Dr. Miller." A young assistant rushed into the room, holding a tablet. "The Council is demanding we cease all dimensional research. They're saying we're too primitive to handle such dangerous technology." Miller took the tablet, reading through the official warning from the Galactic Council. His smile grew wider. "Send them our usual response. We appreciate their concern, but will continue our research within established safety parameters." Walking through the facility's corridors, Miller remembered how it all began. 10 years ago, he had discovered a fundamental flaw in the galaxy's understanding of dimensional physics. The aliens, for all their advanced technology, had been looking at it all wrong. They tried to force their way through dimensions, using massive amounts of energy. But Miller had found a different approach. "Status report," he called out as he entered the main control room. Dozens of scientists and engineers worked at their stations, monitoring the Hyperion systems. "All systems nominal, Doctor," replied his head engineer, Tom Roberts. "The dimensional matrix is stable at 99.97%. We're ready for the next phase of testing whenever you give the word." Miller nodded, approaching the main console. Above it, multiple screens displayed real-time data from the Hyperion sensors. What the aliens didn't understand was that dimensions weren't separate layers to be broken through. They were more like different frequencies of reality. The Hyperion didn't need to punch holes through space-time. It simply needed to change its frequency. "Sir," called out one of the monitoring staff, "we're picking up increased chatter from the galactic observation posts. They're making jokes about us again." "Let me hear it," Miller said, settling into his chair. The room filled with translated alien communications. "Did you hear about the humans' latest attempt? They think they can crack dimensional travel. Next, they'll claim they can bottle starlight." More laughter followed. Miller's team looked at him uncertainly, but he remained calm. "You know what the best part of being underestimated is?" he asked the room at large. "The look on their faces when they realize how wrong they were." He pressed his palm against the biometric scanner on his console, unlocking the highest security protocols. "Begin power-up sequence for Test 47B. Let's show them a little something." The Hyperion's surface began to ripple more actively. Subtle at first, then with increasing intensity. The air around it seemed to bend and twist, creating patterns that hurt the eyes if watched too long. "Power at 15% and climbing," reported Roberts. "Dimensional frequency shifting begins at 35%. Around the world, alien observation posts suddenly registered unusual readings. Their instruments, designed to detect normal space-time disturbances, began giving impossible results. For a brief moment, the Hyperion existed in 3 different dimensional states simultaneously. Miller watched the data streams with satisfaction. The test lasted only 40 seconds, but it was enough. Soon, The alien communication channels were buzzing with confused chatter instead of laughter. "Power down," Miller ordered. "Send all test data to my private server." As his team began shutdown procedures, Miller looked once more at the Hyperion through the observation window. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's primitive understanding of physics had led them to discoveries the aliens had missed for millennia. The laughter would stop, and a new era would begin. In the darkness before dawn, the Hyperion hummed with newfound energy. Dr. Miller stood in the control room, his reflection ghostly in the reinforced windows as he watched his life's work prepare for its first true dimensional jump. "All systems are green," Tom Roberts announced from his station. The engineer's fingers danced across his console, making final adjustments. Power levels holding steady at 87%. The atmosphere in the control room crackled with tension. After months of smaller tests, this would be her first attempt at a full seventh-dimensional shift. If successful, it would rewrite everything the galaxy thought it knew about space-time travel. "Begin the sequence," Miller ordered. His voice remained calm, but his hands gripped the edge of his console tightly. "Take us through each dimensional shift one at a time." The Hyperion's silver surface began to pulse with a soft blue light. As the crew watched, ripples of energy cascaded across its hull, making it look like liquid metal caught in a cosmic wind. "Fourth dimension breach in 3, 2, 1. Roberts counted down. The vessel shimmered and seemed to exist in multiple moments at once. Past and future versions of itself overlapped in a mesmerizing display that had several crew members rubbing their eyes in confusion. "Fifth dimension engaging," called out Lisa Parker from the quantum mechanics station. "Reality matrix holding stable." The air around the Hyperion began to split into fractals, each one showing a slightly different version of the vessel. It was as if someone had taken a mirror and broken it into infinite pieces, each reflecting a different possibility. "Sir," one of the junior technicians called out, "we're detecting attention from orbital satellites. The aliens are watching." Miller smiled. "Good. Let them see what humanity can do. Proceed with sixth-dimensional shift." The Hyperion's surface suddenly turned inside out, while somehow remaining exactly where it was. The mathematics involved would have driven most beings mad, but the human mind had an unusual capacity for accepting the impossible. "Final phase," Miller announced. "Take us to the seventh dimension." Roberts initiated the sequence, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to fold around the Hyperion. The vessel existed everywhere and nowhere, in every possibility, and none at all. Warning alarms blared across alien observation posts throughout the solar system. Their instruments registered power readings that should have been impossible for primitive human technology. "Sir," Parker shouted over the hum of machinery, "we're getting readings from everywhere. The Hyperion is simultaneously present in multiple galaxies." Miller watched as the data streamed across his screens. The vessel hadn't just broken through dimensional barriers. It had shattered all previous understanding of what was possible. "Bring us back," he ordered calmly. Nice and easy. The process reversed, dimensions folding back into place like pages in a cosmic book. The Hyperion's surface settled, though it continued to ripple occasionally with residual energy. As the crew began running diagnostics, a priority message flashed across Miller's screen. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. "Play it," he commanded. The holographic display showed Council leader Marcus Gray, his crystalline form no longer shimmering with amusement, but vibrating with concern. "This is a formal warning to Earth. Your dimensional experiments have exceeded safe parameters. Cease all testing immediately or face severe consequences." Miller switched off the message mid-sentence. He turned to his crew, who looked back at him with a mixture of pride and apprehension. "Send them our test data," he said with a slight grin. "But only the basic readings. Let's not show all our cards just yet." "What about their warnings?" Roberts asked, still monitoring the Hyperion's power levels as they normalized. "They're not warning us because they're concerned for our safety," Miller replied. They're warning us because they're afraid. For the first time in galactic history, humanity has surpassed their understanding of the universe. He walked to the window, placing his hand against the cool glass as he watched the Hyperion continue its subtle dimensional dance. Today, we prove that laughter was premature. Tomorrow, we show them just how far we've come. He turned back to his crew. Begin preparations for Test Series C. It's time to see what this ship can really do. The crew nodded, their earlier tension replaced with determination. The age of alien mockery was ending. The age of human ascendance had begun. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Gone were the laughs and jokes about primitive humans. Instead, the alien representatives sat in tense silence as they watched recordings of the Hyperion's dimensional jumps. Council leader Marcus Gray's crystalline form had lost its usual luster, dulled by concern. "These readings cannot be accurate," he declared, but his voice lacked conviction. No species has ever achieved stable seventh-dimensional travel. In the back of the chamber, the Earth's ambassador, Michael Stone, stood calmly. He remembered all the times he'd endured their mockery. Now, watching their confusion, he felt a small sense of satisfaction. Meanwhile, at the hidden facility, Dr. Miller faced a different kind of pressure. Government leaders from around the world had gathered in the main conference room, their faces grave. "The aliens are demanding we shut down the project," said the U.S. President, her voice firm. "They're calling it a threat to galactic stability." Miller pulled up the latest test results on the room's main display. "With all due respect, Madam President, we're beyond the point of backing down. Look at these readings." The display showed the Hyperion's energy signature spreading across multiple galaxies simultaneously. It hadn't just achieved seventh-dimensional travel. It had mastered it. "The aliens are scared," Miller continued. "Not because what we're doing is dangerous, but because it proves their technological superiority was an illusion." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Tom Roberts burst into the room, his face pale. "Sir, we're detecting multiple alien ships entering the solar system. They're not following standard diplomatic protocols." The president straightened in her chair. "How many ships?" 37 capital ships so far," Roberts replied. "More appearing every minute." Miller remained calm. "They're trying to intimidate us. Show of force. It's a classic alien tactic when dealing with lesser species." "Can they detect the Hyperion?" someone asked. "No," Miller answered. "Our dimensional shielding makes us invisible to their sensors. They know we have the technology, but they can't find it." The facility's main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. Council Leader Gray's image appeared, his crystalline form now pulsing with angry red energy. "People of Earth," his translated voice boomed, "your reckless experiments threaten the fabric of space-time itself. Surrender your dimensional technology immediately, or we will be forced to take action." The president stood, her decision made. "Dr. Miller, how quickly can the Hyperion be ready for full deployment?" "We've been ready for weeks," Miller replied with a slight smile. "We anticipated this reaction." "Then it's time." The president turned to address the other world leaders. "Humanity has endured their condescension long enough. We will not surrender our technology." Miller left the conference room and hurried to the control center. His team was already at their stations, running pre-launch diagnostics on the Hyperion. "Status report," he called out. "All systems nominal." Lisa Parker responded from her station. "The dimensional matrix is more stable than ever. We've even made improvements since the last test." Through the observation window, the Hyperion's surface rippled with barely contained power. The ship seemed eager to show its true capabilities. "Sir," Roberts called out, "the alien fleet is spreading out. They're establishing a blockade around Earth." Miller nodded. "Let them. They still think in three-dimensional terms. They don't understand that distance means nothing to us now." He opened a channel to all stations. "This is Dr. Miller. Begin final launch preparations. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity is no longer content to be underestimated. As his crew worked, Miller thought about how far they'd come. From being the laughingstock of the galaxy to holding its most advanced technology. The journey had been long, but worth every moment. "Sir," Parker called out, "we're receiving more threats from the alien fleet. They're giving us 1 hour to comply." Miller smiled. "Send them our response. Thank you for your concern. However, humanity has chosen its path. We suggest you reconsider your position while you still can." The message was sent, and the countdown began. Above them, the alien fleet prepared for what they thought would be a simple show of force against a primitive species. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Alarms wailed throughout Earth's major cities as alien ships darkened the skies above. The massive vessels hung like metallic clouds, their weapon systems glowing with barely contained energy. In the hidden facility, Dr. Miller watched the tactical display with growing concern. The alien fleet had doubled in size over the last hour, now numbering over 70 capital ships. Final transmission from the Galactic Council. Tom Roberts announced, his voice tight. "Playing now." Council Leader Gray's image appeared, his crystalline form now a deep, threatening red. "This is your last warning, humans. Surrender the dimensional technology, or we will demonstrate why primitive species should know their place. You have 30 minutes to comply." The President of the United States, who had remained at the facility, stepped forward. "Dr. Miller, it's time for our response. Is Captain Stone ready?" Miller nodded. "She's been ready since we first built the Hyperion. She's our best pilot and understands seventh-dimensional physics better than anyone except me." In the Hyperion's control chamber, Captain Rebecca Stone ran her final pre-launch checks. The ship hummed around her, its control surfaces responding to her touch like a living thing. "All systems are green," she reported through the comm. "Dimensional matrix is stable at 99.99%. We can launch at your command." The President took a deep breath, then squared her shoulders. "Send our response to the Council." Miller opened a channel. His voice was calm as he delivered humanity's answer. "To the Galactic Council, we have received your ultimatum. Here is ours. Remove your fleet from Earth space immediately, or witness power beyond your comprehension. You have 15 minutes to comply." The response was immediate. Weapons fire erupted from the alien fleet, but not at Earth. They were creating a containment grid, a web of energy designed to prevent any ship from escaping the solar system. "They still think we need to move through normal space," Stone commented, a slight smile playing on her lips. "Should we show them how wrong they are?" Miller checked the final readings. "Captain Stone, you have permission to launch. Show them what the Hyperion can do. But remember, this is a demonstration, not a battle." "Not yet." "Understood, sir." Stone's fingers danced across the control surfaces, beginning launch sequence. The Hyperion's surface began to ripple more intensely, patterns of light racing across its silver hull. The air around it bent and twisted as dimensional energies built up. "Alien fleet is charging weapons," Roberts reported. "They're trying to locate us, but the dimensional shielding is holding." Stone's voice came through clear and confident. "Initiating first jump in 3, 2, 1. The Hyperion vanished. Not with a flash or a bang, but with a subtle ripple in reality itself. One moment it was there. The next it existed in 7 dimensions at once. Chaos erupted among the alien fleet. Their sensors screamed as the Hyperion appeared simultaneously at multiple points around their containment grid. Each image was real, each one existing in a different dimensional state. By the cosmic core, Council Leader Gray's voice shook as he watched the impossible display. "How are they doing this?" Stone's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "This is the Hyperion. As you can see, your containment grid is useless against 7th-dimensional travel. This is a small demonstration of our capabilities." To emphasize her point, she shifted the Hyperion through another series of dimensional states. The ship appeared inside the alien fleet's formation. Between their ships, even briefly overlapping with their vessels without causing any damage, a feat that should have been impossible. "Sir," Roberts called out, monitoring the alien communications, "their fleet is falling into disarray. Several ships are powering down their weapons." Miller nodded. "Captain Stone, bring us back to primary dimensional state. I think they got the message." The Hyperion reappeared in its launch bay, its surface still rippling with residual energy. The alien fleet had fallen silent. "Send another message," the president ordered. "Tell them we're willing to discuss this diplomatically, but any further threats will be met with more than just demonstrations." As Miller relayed the message, he studied the readings from the Hyperion's test flight. Everything had performed perfectly, but he knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had forced their hand. Now they would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't the technology itself. It was their determination to use it. The alien fleet hung motionless in Earth's orbit, their earlier confidence shattered by the Hyperion's display. Inside the Council's flagship, Leader Gray faced a crisis he never expected. His sensors showed something impossible. The human vessel was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. "They must be stopped," one of his commanders hissed. "If they can do this with one ship." Gray's crystalline form pulsed with dark colors. Without warning, he gave the order. "All ships, open fire. Target their major cities. Let's see how well their dimensional vessel protects them when their civilization burns." In the hidden facility, alarms blared as thousands of energy weapons powered up above Earth's atmosphere. "They're targeting civilian populations," Roberts shouted, his hands flying across his console. Multiple weapon locks detected. Captain Stone's voice came through clear and sharp. "Permission to engage, sir." Dr. Miller looked at the president, who nodded grimly. "Permission granted. Show them why they shouldn't have made this personal." The Hyperion's surface erupted with energy. This time, Stone didn't bother with subtle demonstrations. The ship phased through 7 dimensions at once, creating a cascade of reality-bending effects that made the alien fleet's targeting systems go haywire. "What is happening?" Gray demanded as his weapons locked onto phantom targets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Hyperion appeared in the heart of the alien formation, its silver surface now glowing with an inner light that hurt to look at. Stone's voice broadcasted across all frequencies. "This is your only warning. Stand down, or we will be forced to demonstrate the Hyperion's offensive capabilities." In response, one of the alien ships fired. The energy beam passed through where the Hyperion appeared to be, hitting nothing but empty space. "Wrong choice," Stone muttered. Her fingers danced across the control surfaces, activating systems that had never been tested in actual combat. The Hyperion's dimensional drive engaged at full power. Reality twisted around the alien fleet as the human vessel created controlled dimensional rifts. Ships found themselves overlapping with slightly different versions of themselves from parallel dimensions. Impossible. Gray watched in horror as 3 of his best ships crashed into their own alternate dimensional versions. They didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, canceled out by their own quantum signatures. "Their weapons are useless," Miller observed from the control room. "They can't target something that exists in 7 dimensions at once." Stone proved his point by having the Hyperion phase through several alien vessels, existing in the same space, but in different dimensional states. The effect created cascading failures in the alien ship systems as their reality tried to cope with the impossible physics involved. "Sir," Roberts called out, 5 more alien ships have powered down their weapons. They're retreating." The president smiled grimly. "They finally understand. Captain Stone, disable their flagship, but leave their life support intact. It's time for real negotiations." The Hyperion shifted again, appearing directly in front of Gray's command vessel. This time, it partially phased into the same dimensional space as the alien ship's main power core. "What are you doing?" Gray's panicked voice came through all channels. "Demonstrating why you shouldn't threaten innocent civilians," Stone replied calmly. She adjusted the Hyperion's dimensional frequency slightly. The flagship's power core suddenly existed in two different dimensional states at once. Emergency alarms blared throughout the alien fleet as their leader's ship went dark, all systems except life support shutting down. Miller opened a channel to the crippled flagship. Council Leader Gray, shall we discuss terms, or would you prefer another demonstration? The alien fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down. On their screens, they watched the Hyperion shift through dimensional states like a cosmic dancer, each movement demonstrating power they had never thought possible. We will discuss terms. Gray's voice had lost all its previous arrogance. As the tension began to ease, Miller allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had brought their most powerful ships to intimidate Earth. Instead, they had become the audience for humanity's greatest demonstration of power. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Negotiations had broken down. Despite the Hyperion's demonstration, a radical faction of the alien fleet had decided that humanity's power was too great a threat to let stand. 20 ships broke formation, their weapons charging to maximum power. They're targeting our major population centers again, Roberts announced, his voice tense. Multiple missiles launching. In the Hyperion's control chamber, Captain Stone's expression hardened. No more games. Dr. Miller, requesting permission to use the Dimensional Cascade Protocol. Miller's face went pale. They had only tested the Cascade Protocol in simulations. The risks are less than letting them destroy our cities, Stone finished. Sir, we need to end this now. The President stepped forward. Do it. Miller nodded grimly. Captain Stone, you have authorization for Protocol Omega. Show them the full power of seventh dimensional warfare. Stone's fingers flew across the control surfaces. The Hyperion's silver hull began to glow with an inner light that seemed to bend the fabric of reality itself. Initiating Dimensional Cascade, she announced. All personnel, brace for reality distortion. The Hyperion split into 7 perfect copies of itself, each existing in a different dimension but occupying the same space. The effect was like a prism splitting light, but instead of light, it was splitting reality itself. The alien missiles froze in space as they encountered zones where time moved at different speeds. Some accelerated until they aged to dust, others reversed until they became raw materials again. By the cosmic core, Gray whispered from his crippled flagship, "What have they done?" The Hyperion's copies began to rotate around each other, creating a vortex of dimensional energy. Space itself began to fold and unfold like origami in the hands of a master. Target locked, Stone reported calmly. Initiating dimensional shear. The vortex collapsed inward, focusing on the 20 rebellious ships. They found themselves caught between dimensions, existing in 7 different states of reality simultaneously. Their hull integrity is failing, Roberts reported, watching his sensors in amazement. The dimensional stress is tearing them apart at the quantum level. One by one, the rebel ships simply ceased to exist, their matter and energy scattered across 7 dimensions. It wasn't destruction in any conventional sense. It was erasure from reality itself. The remaining alien fleet watched in horror as their most powerful warships were eliminated without a single conventional weapon being fired. This, Stone broadcast across all frequencies, is what happens when you force humanity to defend itself. We didn't want this fight, but we will finish it. The Hyperion's copies merged back into a single vessel, though reality around it continued to ripple like water disturbed by a stone. Miller opened a channel to Gray's flagship. Would you like to resume negotiations, or shall Captain Stone demonstrate more of the Hyperion's capabilities? Stand down all weapons, Gray ordered his remaining ships, his voice shaking. Power down everything except life support. We accept your terms. As the alien fleet complied, Stone brought the Hyperion back to its normal dimensional state. The ship's surface still rippled with residual energy, a reminder of the incredible forces it had just channeled. Damage report, Miller asked. None, sir, Stone replied, sounding slightly surprised herself. The dimensional matrix held stable throughout the entire sequence. We could do it again if necessary. The president stepped forward. That won't be necessary, Captain. I think they finally understand. On screens around the world, humans watched as the mighty alien fleet hung powerless in orbit. The species that had once laughed at humanity's primitive understanding of physics now waited fearfully for their next commands. Send word to all Earth governments, the president ordered. The immediate threat is over. And send a message to the Galactic Council. We expect their representatives to arrive ready for serious diplomatic discussions this time. Miller studied the readings from the dimensional cascade. They had barely scratched the surface of what the Hyperion could do. The ship hadn't just changed the balance of power, it had rewritten the rules of warfare itself. The galaxy would never be the same again, and humanity would lead the way into this new era, whether the aliens liked it or not. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Humans now sat at the highest seats, with Dr. Miller and Captain Stone representing Earth's interests. Council Leader Gray's crystalline form had dulled to a humble blue as he took his new position among the lower ranks. The distribution of dimensional travel technology will proceed according to schedule, Miller announced to the assembled representatives. Each species will receive the knowledge as they demonstrate their readiness and commitment to peaceful cooperation. The aliens who had once laughed at humanity now listened intently to every word. The Hyperion's demonstration had changed everything. We understand some of you fear this technology, Stone added, standing beside Miller. You've seen its destructive potential, but we believe its greatest value lies in exploration and advancement, not warfare. To emphasize her point, a hologram appeared above the chamber, showing the Hyperion's latest achievement. The ship had successfully mapped paths between galaxies, reducing journeys of millions of years to mere moments through seventh-dimensional corridors. Humanity's agreement to share this technology is generous. Gray spoke up, his voice carrying a new respect. We who mocked their efforts now stand humbled by their wisdom. Miller smiled slightly, remembering the path that had led them here. We haven't forgotten the laughter, he said, but we choose to move forward with hope rather than resentment. The chamber's atmosphere had changed from one of fear to cautious optimism. Several alien species had already begun working with human scientists, learning the principles of dimensional physics that their own civilizations had overlooked. The first training center will open next month, Stone announced. We've selected candidates from 30 different species to begin learning seventh-dimensional navigation. Roberts, now promoted to chief engineer of Earth's growing dimensional fleet, displayed the plans for the new academy. It would be built in orbit around Earth, a symbol of humanity's new role as teachers rather than students. What about security? Asked one of the alien representatives. How can we be sure this power won't be misused? The Hyperion remains Earth's guardian, Stone replied. Any attempt to use dimensional technology for aggression will be met with immediate response. We protect the peace we've established. The meeting continued with discussions of trade routes, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange. Humanity had transformed from a laughingstock to the guardian of galactic civilization in less than a year. After the session, Miller stood at the chamber's great window, looking out at the stars. The Hyperion floated in the distance, its silver surface still rippling with dimensional energy. Quite a change from when they used to mock us in this very chamber, Stone said, joining him at the window. Miller nodded. We proved something important, not just about dimensional travel, but about humanity itself. When they laughed, we didn't give up. When they threatened, we didn't back down. We stayed true to our vision. And now we guide the galaxy's future, Stone added. Though I admit, sometimes I miss the simplicity of those early test flights. A group of alien scientists approached, their expressions eager as they waited to discuss the latest breakthroughs in dimensional physics. Humanity had become the teachers, sharing knowledge that would advance all species. The laughter stopped. Miller said quietly, but something better has replaced it. Understanding. Cooperation. Progress. The Hyperion's surface caught the light of a distant sun, sending rainbow reflections through its dimensional ripples. The ship that had changed everything now served as a reminder: never underestimate humanity's potential. "Sir," Roberts called from across the chamber. "The first group of alien pilot trainees has arrived. They're ready to begin learning about seventh-dimensional navigation." Miller and Stone shared a knowing look. The galaxy had entered a new age, one where humanity led not through fear or dominance, but through wisdom and shared knowledge. The laughter had indeed stopped. In its place, a symphony of cooperation had begun, with humanity conducting the orchestra of galactic civilization toward a brighter future. As they moved to greet the new trainees, Miller whispered, "Welcome to the Age of Enlightenment." The stars seemed to twinkle in agreement, as if the universe itself approved of humanity's rise from ridicule to revered.